Welcome to Scoop World Order. It is the week of the game. It is Sunday. The Bucks are 11-0. The big bad blue Wolverines are 11-0, and we get to see a showdown in Ann Arbor next Saturday at noon. That'll be one that will be for the ages. This is one of the few times that we've both been undefeated. Everything's on the line. Michigan's been cheating. Their turmoil's been crazy. We're gonna have the latest on all the stuff going on. Could more coaches get fired this week? Again, it's coming pretty hot and heavy, so it's very interesting to see who will be on the sidelines for the Wolverines. Again, it's going to be Ryan Day versus Sharon Moore. We're going to get into that. We're going to give you the 5 reasons why Ohio State will beat Michigan on Saturday, because we've been nails all season on our predictions, and we feel really good about this one. So we'll give you some of the reasons why. We're going to break some film down, and we're going to take your super chat. So as always, we're very gracious, very appreciative of you guys. If you guys have a question that you are dying to know the answer to, super chat it, send it in. We stop the show, answer it immediately, as quickly as we can. Obviously, the queues have been building up pretty quick here, so but we appreciate you guys oh so much. If you enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, click that little alert bell so you can alert when we happen to go live. Like, this is a little early for us today, but we felt like we got to do a 2-a-day today just because there's a lot of information coming in, and we just didn't want to sit on it anymore. So as always, thank you, and consider joining Scoop Ultra, our new subscription program. We're going to do a Scoop Ultra chats probably once a month. We're going to iron all that out. But we've got a bunch of new subscribers to that. So thank you guys for subscribing to our YouTube channel and supporting us. That being said, got to bring in my man, Nevada. Again, I gave you your flowers yesterday on the Maryland game. I was completely wrong. I thought it'd be a blowout. You were completely right. If Talia Tagovailoa just plays like a C+ game, they probably win. But he was awful. Fumble for a touchdown, safety to end the game. But you nailed that game. You've had a really good read on Michigan this year. You've had a really good read on Ohio State. Again, for people that don't know that, he's got very, very, very high up sources in terms of the world of gambling and a lot of information. So obviously he scorched me on that one. So your thoughts on Michigan coming into the Ohio State game? Again, you've also nailed all of the scandal stuff. Again, we've had Michigan people actually reach out and DM us and say how I'm joining BuckeyeScoop.com because your information is way better than the Michigan guys. So thank you to you guys, because again, you guys are realizing that. So it's been a long, strange trip, because there are people that say I hate those two guys, but their information is so good that I have to sign up for their site. Literally, that was the message I got, and I was like, okay, appreciate you guys, thank you. So, but your thoughts, Nevada?
Yeah, I've been talking to people nonstop since last night. Got off the podcast last night and started just immediately, working sources, start working some team sources, working stuff just to kind of find out as much as I could about, the team, our health, the plan, the mindset, and kind of our approach to this game. And I'm telling you, I have a sense of calm about this game that I haven't had. I am always anxious about the Michigan game, always, every year, because I'm old enough to have seen really good Ohio State teams go up to Ann Arbor and just get clocked. And some of the greatest players in Ohio State, we could go down and recount the list of times that's happened, but we all know the stories. We've all been there, done that. But I'm telling you, there's something different about this team, and there's something different about this approach they're taking right now, because I feel like they know exactly who they are right now, and they've got a really good handle defensively on what Michigan's going to try to do offensively. They've got a really good handle on how they're going to attack them. They've got a really good handle on who their players are. We're healthy at just as healthy as you can be at just the right time. And you brought up a really good point last night, and I thought about it all night. I think it's an underrated point. It's one not a lot of people are talking about, but it's like the Lathan Ransom injury may be a blessing in disguise for a game like this, because it forces you to go with your safeties right now are freaking Josh Proctor and Sonny Styles. And those are two big dudes that are running around out there just hammering guys. They're perfect for covering tight ends. They're perfect for dropping into the box, for supporting the run. They're great on run blitzes. They're good on pass blitzes. They're the kind of guys that you want. They wouldn't be the ideal types to be going up against an air raid type of offense, or a team that had a bunch of burners on the outside, or a team that was going to really force the ball down the field and make those guys get into coverage types of situations. But for a game like this, they're exactly right. and I think we're peaking at the right time. And I love the approach. I love the game plan. And I think Ohio State's going to show. I don't think it's going to be a shock to the world because everybody knows how good Ohio State is. But I think they're just going to just quietly take care of business next weekend in Ann Arbor, and I'm totally confident about it. And I'm going to put my money where my mouth is on that.
Yeah, I just think again when you play Michigan any year, anywhere, whatever, you just want to win by 1 point. That's it. There's no walking off the field when you've won because I've done that 4 times as a starter. So I wasn't there holding a towel or on the bench. Like I was in there, and it's like even if you don't play good, and I played exceptionally well against Michigan because I was a kid that grew up in the '90s. I saw my heroes lose. I saw Orlando Pace and Eddie George and all these teams. I was just like, oh, there's no way we can lose. We've got Eddie George. There's no way because we got Orlando Pace, and they still managed to lose to teams that I thought were inferior to what Ohio State had from a talent perspective. But I just you just got to go win by 1 point in Ann Arbor. You do that, and the life is amazing. And I just think that when I watch Maryland, again, the thing that you have to remember is like when you watch that Michigan Maryland game and you see Michigan out there putting around, it ends up being a 7 point game. Like we're going to see a vastly different Michigan team on Saturday. Like they are going to be dialed up. They're going to be dialed in. Again, even though they're completely cheaters and frauds and idiots, they've adopted this warped sense of self where it's like this us against the world mentality, which sometimes you do that, like if you're like a severe underdog versus a really good team, us against the world, everyone's picking the other team. They're doing it just because they're so guilty that they have to figure out a way to rationalize the behavior and rationalize, oh, everyone's making us fire our coaches and suspend our head coach and let's go win one for the Gipper, even as a cheater. And I think that in a warped world can galvanize the team. I think that they're going to be on fire. I think that building is going to be on fire. I think it's going to be one of the toughest environments we've ever seen in Ohio State history. So again, that team that you saw putting around against Maryland is not the team that we're going to see. And again, I think schematically we match up great against these guys. I don't think their offensive tackles are good. I think our defensive ends are playing exceptionally well. And again, we're the only two people in the entire Ohio State beat that have been saying how good Jack Sawyer has been, especially the last 6-7 games. Everybody else has been saying, where's Caden Curry? Where's Kenyatta Jackson? I'm like, guys, like, again, tell me less. Say less about knowing absolutely nothing about football when you're trying to bench Jack Sawyer, who's been a monster against the run all year. And then they slice some stuff to him. He hits a sack last night for a fumble to JT. I mean, again, he's been there all year. The production hasn't been, but sometimes when you're fitting in a run game, you don't get statistics for that. So again, finally he got his shot and he had his big statistical game last night. But our ends have a severe advantage versus their tackles. So I think that's something I'm excited about. I think Tommy Eichenberg is going to play this week. He's going to be on fire. He had to miss senior day, which I'm sure was depressing to him. But we need him. We need Cody Simon. And again, I keep saying, a lot of people are like, are we going to go 3 linebackers? I was like, well, if Sonny's in the game and, we're running Jordan Hancock at nickel, I mean, it's almost like Sonny's like your third linebacker and Hancock is basically replacing a safety, when he's playing the slot. So, again, I love Sonny in the game. Again, he's 6'4", he's 220, he has zero fear. He'll put his face right on a guy. And that's why I just love this. Again, Lathan, who I think is a great kid, a great, a good player. He was not great in run fits last year versus Georgia or Michigan. So, Sonny, and again, Sonny's the guy that, you better bring the wood because he can get guys on the ground and he's just physically imposing. He's the most physically imposing safety we've ever had. We've never had a 6'4", 230-pound safety. I mean, there's not 5 of those on the entire earth, guys that are built like Sonny Styles. Nevada, we're going to do our 5 reasons why we think or why we know Ohio State is going to beat Michigan. What is your first reason for that?
My first reason is Marvin Harrison Jr. Marvin Harrison
Mm-hmm.
Jr. is one of those guys that, not only is it his production, but it's all the production that he forces onto other people because the defense having to account for him. And, if you're going to play that too high safety look and try to give help over the top for Marvin, um, then that's a running offense. That's an offense that's basically daring you to run. And for Ohio State, they'll take that, they'll run the ball, and when you're handing the ball to guys like Trey Henderson, like Chip, like Xavier Johnson, like Emeka in orbit action or whatever. I mean, we'll do that all day long. We'll trade blow for blow, handing the ball off to Trey Henderson on the outside. If you want to double Marvin, and if you don't double Marvin, you'll see what happens around the goal line. Like yesterday, you have easy pitching catches, and I think I think slash know they've been saving some stuff for this game, some connections between Kyle and Marvin that they haven't seen yet this year, and it's stuff that they've been working on all year. They plan to feature Marvin in this game. One, they think that Marvin's their best one-on-one advantage against Michigan. And I know in the back of their mind, and I know this shouldn't matter again like this, but would they like to get Marvin Harrison Jr. the Heisman? Yeah. And if he blows up this week and torches the Wolverines, Marvin Harrison Jr. will win the Heisman Trophy. So it's going to be the biggest game of the year. It'll be the most viewed game of the year. Everybody in the world will be watching, and I think my number one reason, and we can talk about five of them, but my number one reason is Marvin Harrison Jr.
Well, so I'll go. My reason, the fourth reason why they win to me is Sharon Moore. So again, Sharon Moore is the offensive line coach. He's the offensive coordinator. He's a play caller, and now he has to be the acting head coach. So, again, in the perfect world, obviously without suspension and whatever, you'd have one guy's a head coach, one guy's an offensive coordinator, one guy's an O-line coach. Because again, I don't, I know Jim Bowman did for 11 years as the OC and the O-line coach. He had a lot of help from Daryl Hazel, who's a really good passing game guy, helping with the receivers. But I think ideally you want your OC to be tied to the quarterback because the quarterback's the most important guy in the entire team. He has to have a really good handle. I think it's a lot easier to call the running game than it is the passing game. Passing game is much more sophisticated than the running game. And I think that, this guy's got to wear three hats. And again, I just think, again, they'll galvanize around him because they don't have a choice. It's not like they get to vote if they want Harbaugh or not to be there. He's literally suspended for cheating. But I think of this image James Laurinaitis posted on Twitter. James is one of my best friends, the guy that I served as a captain with. And he posted this image that was, let me switch my outlet real quick. It was amazing because it was the 07 game, and it's literally one of the greatest photos I think I've ever seen. With Truss, this is 07. We're walking out of the tunnel, so James is in the middle. I'm right next to him to the left, and then Malcolm is right next to us. So we're the three captains, and it's like, I just, thinking about this image, the captain's got to be in the front because we got to go to the coin toss as soon as we walk out. But I couldn't imagine like Jim Tressel not leading us out of that tunnel and having it be Jim Bowman or Jim Haycock or whatever. It's just like, because Truss was that dude now. Like for Michigan, he was absolutely that dude. And I don't know. Like, I mean, I thought about like, what does it mean? What does it mean to be a leader? And your head coach that's the guy. He's your ultimate leader. And we've had Urban walk out the tunnel, and and Ryan Day's been up that tunnel, and I mean, that's the guy everybody looks to, good or bad. And I couldn't imagine like this snapshot with Trust deleted from it, and how important it is to have your head coach there holding it down. We are going to hit pause because we always say we hit pause because we have a bunch of super chats building up. So we appreciate you guys. We're going to stop and answer these, and then we'll give you the last three reasons. Oh, a little big. Thank you, Todd Doyle. Let me shrink that a little bit. Todd Doyle, thank you for the 5. Not scared of Michigan. If ND played their schedule, they would be 11-0 with the same stats. I agree with that. I think we will overwhelm them. Nevada, I'm like you. I'm not scared of Michigan. Again, anything can happen in the game. Again, I've been wrong before, but I don't think I'm going to be wrong on this one. What are your thoughts? Are you scared of Michigan? Do you think we will overwhelm them?
No, but I think the point you made, the Michigan team that we saw this weekend will not be the same team. This was a Michigan team on a low emotional ebb against Maryland, and they were playing nothing like that this weekend. So it's going to be a battle, and we just got to avoid like the Big Ten officials have got to be better. They can't suck like they did yesterday in the Maryland game because they made some big calls. That I think people like the popular consensus on these things is like, oh, the Big Ten's going to punish Michigan. They don't want to see them in the Big Ten. They're going to make calls against them. Michigan has been the benefactor of horrible calls the last 2 weeks. And so at some point, you have to realize it's not the Big Ten manipulating these games. Just the officiating is just bad. It's
Yeah.
bad across college football. It's bad in the Big Ten. So it's not, they're not fixing games. These guys are just bad. They're bad at their
Yeah.
jobs. And so that's point number one. But, look, these games are ultimately won by the players. You see these games, and, it's going to come down to who can make more plays, who's got more dudes. And I'm telling you, Michigan doesn't have, they don't have a Trey Henderson. They don't have a Marvin Harrison Jr. They don't have their head coach. And I just think that's going to be at the end of the day, that's going to be the reason why they lose. But no, I definitely, I'm predicting an Ohio State win because I just have a feeling. I've known it all year long with this team, and I just feel it. I can see it. I feel it, and I can't wait for the game.
Yeah, I agree. I just think it's a Trey Henderson game. I think he hits a couple home runs and it changes everything. Expedition Greg, appreciate you, brother. Thank you for the 5. What major bombshell do you think will happen next to Michigan? That's Michigan versus everybody's a complete ripoff of Ohio versus the world. I agree. Again, they have to live in this alternate dimension where they think that they are the victim somehow. But I mean, you got to think like Jay Harbaugh has got to be like on the hottest seat of all time because all of these guys that were like, pillow talking with Connor Stallions, I mean, they're all getting whacked. It's kind of like the scene in Godfather where Michael makes everything right and he shoots Mo Green in the eye and he kills all of his enemies. Like it's like that's kind of what's going on at Michigan right now. They're figuring out like, well, Jay Harbaugh, the guys that are posting or Connor Stallions is posting like Twitter photos with the families and stuff like those guys are all very complicit in what went on. And again, again, I don't think I know they all were. Again, I've been right about that since day one. And I also said, I know that some donor got pitched this hairpin scheme. Some guys got 9-figure net income, a couple $100 million, and they're like, hey, we get the scheme where this guy's going to go steal signals. And the guy's like, well, will it work? And well, we'll try it for a couple games. Will you stake us for 20 grand so that he can pay for people to travel and video it? And we'll see how it does. And then he watched it and he saw it and oh my God, it really worked. And and this is the golden layer to it. Oh, and I can bet on this. Ooh, so I know that you guys are going to cover because you guys know all the plays. And oh, we beat the spread. Oh, we beat the spread. Like I mean, that is going to be the next hammer that drops. Is where they tie all the gambling stuff to this. Because I'm telling you, like I know like rich guys sometimes like to spend money on stupid stuff, but when they figure out, oh, not only do I have this edge, but then I can bet on it now, and then I can actually make my money back, and I can actually multiply my money on this. Like that, I'm telling you, that's the next hammer that's going to fall. Because when a team goes from being poor against the spread to just being absolutely dominant against the spread, and there's one guy that knows why, and he's that guy, I'm just telling you, like, people get greedy, and again, I think that's going to be their downfall. Nevada, do you expect any bombshells this week? I think that there could be another guy that gets fired this week too.
Well, I'm going to share something here that I haven't even shared on our message board yet. So I'm going to make this on YouTube. But I've been trying to figure out, like with Michigan, a lot of this information has been coming from inside the house, and that's coming from a lot of different places. We talked about Weiss's computer, how they were looking for sex crimes against minors on, as part of his unauthorized computer access, and that was part of an Ann Arbor Police Department investigation brought into Cyber Division. That's how they found the practice footage. That's how they found the gambling cookies. That's how they found out about the sign stealing. But there's been more information leaking out from a number of different places. And the Michigan people have been talking about: is it an ex-coach? Is it a current player? Is it an ex-player? Who's it? But one of the things that I keep hearing, and I keep hearing this from both inside Michigan sources as well as extra Michigan sources, is the guy. Remember the guy on the whole pedophile video thing? The guy, and I
Yeah,
hate even talking
yeah,
about the video.
Justin Yoon, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we didn't show the video on here because I think the whole thing's creepy, and I just didn't really
Mm-hmm.
want to get into that. But
Mm-hmm.
what I've got is that when that video came out, that a lot of the Michigan players were like making fun of him for that stuff, and it really upset him. And it upset him so much because he was one of the guys that was running around and filming and doing so.
Yep.
He knew the whole caper. He knew which guys knew. He knew where they knew, why they knew, how they knew, et cetera, et cetera. I hear he's one of the guys that's talking. And that when they said that to me, and I've heard it from multiple sources, that made absolute sense to me. I think he's got an axe to grind, and I think he's one of the guys that's going out there in terms of doing it. But for Michigan, this stuff just keeps coming, and I I think slash know that more is coming. It's a question of whether it'll drop this week or not. I think that what's happened is Michigan went, or excuse me, the NCAA went in to interview Michigan players, and that's where Partridge was telling players not to cooperate, not to say, not to go in terms of, no. But a couple of them talked. A couple of them know. And so what they're doing right now is in the process of verifying the information that's been given. And if that happens, I'll call it right now. Jay Harbaugh will be the next one to go. Fredo
Yeah.
Harbaugh is definitely going to be the next one to go. He was absolutely, according to them, the linchpin, ringleader,
Oh yeah.
cheerleader, connection to Papa. Um, I believe that we've had this story nailed from the very beginning. People
Yep.
scoffed at certain things we said, and everything we said should not be right. I'm telling you, that's going to be the next. That's going to be the next body to hit the floor.
Well, and you got to think like if you're in Justin Yoon's shoes and you're doing something absolutely horrendous, trying to pick up the little kid at Walmart and it's like it's gross. I didn't like saying it's nasty, makes my skin crawl, but that's ultra embarrassing and it would be a huge headline. But what's a good way to get yourself buried? Throw bombs, throw gas on the Michigan scandal fire. So feed Pete Thamel and feed all these investigative guys information. And he probably isn't doing it directly. He's probably doing it through an attorney or doing it. But again, if you can leak all that stuff, because again, that was like a 1 day story. And for that guy, he probably thought it was, life ending. Everybody would know it. But outside of like, I mean, you don't even remember the guy's name. I do just because, I'm that guy. But I like the, I think that, the more that he could shovel, point, look at, here's more Michigan stuff. And the way that that's like such a raging inferno right now, yeah, of course he's got to keep feeding it because it puts his story further and further back on the Google search pages. So, but again, it's just such a weird thing. Az King, appreciate you for the 5 nuke I totally agree. Again, I hate it up there. I hate everything about that program. And they're a bunch of cheating idiots. But appreciate you, Az King. You're in here every night, so thank you, or every day for this one. Appreciate you. Larry Daniels, an Ultra member. He's got the badge, so thank you, my man. Shout out Scoop Ultra, all my Scoop. We got a ton of new Scoop Ultra people, so thank you guys for joining that. Is there a correlation between leaving the 15 quote scripted plays and Ryan and Kyle's performance / anxiety increase once they go off the plays? So I'll talk a little bit about scripting real quick, just because I've been a part of the script. I think that a guy, most guys will leave the script after 2 plays. I mean, the only play usually that you can guarantee is the first play because usually, if it's a touchback, if the guy's got to put it out of the end zone like our kicker does, it's going to be a touchback, hitting the ball to 25, and you can say, when it's a touchback, you get to pick what hash it's on. So, okay, we're going to open up, we're going to run a pass play to the right, we're going to put Marvin Harrison out to the left. So you say, hey, I want on the left hash and whatever. But after that, like, you kind of don't know what's going to happen. I mean, you could have some plays in the holster ready to go, but I don't think you can like to sit there and say, well, no matter what happens, we're going to call these 15 plays. So again, I think with Ryan and Kyle, I don't think it's as much the script of the first 15 plays as much as figuring out what teams are doing against them. Because here's the thing about football. When Ryan Day and Kyle McCord come out of the tunnel and they go through pre-game warm-ups and they hit the field, they really have, they have some idea about how like Minnesota is going to play defense against us, but there's no guarantee that what you watched on film all week and what they did all season is what we're going to get. So, that first 10-ish, 15 plays, as much as everybody wants it to be explosive, long touchdowns, which it can happen, a lot of it is figuring out, talking to people upstairs that are on the binoculars and scripting, or excuse me, charting the defenses. What are we getting? What coverages are we getting? How are they playing certain formations? How are they playing Marvin? What are they doing in early downs versus potential run situations? So there's a lot of deciphering that goes on in the first 10 to 15 plays just to see, are they running what they've ran all season and what we saw on film and what we taught the kids all week, or is it something totally new? Again, in 2012, and I go back to the Wayback Machine, but 2012, when I coached for Urban Meyer brought his power spread offense from Florida. And every week we had no idea how teams were going to defend it. Like no clue. I mean, we could watch. I mean, even like week 10 or 9, whenever we played Wisconsin, we thought they were going to blitz us every single play because that's what Tom Herman knew Chris Ash. Chris Ash was the defensive coordinator. They were best friends. And he's like, oh, they're going to blitz guy off the edge every time. That's how he defends this offense. We get out to that game. They didn't blitz. They literally did not blitz us a single play. And Urban Meyer was so impressed with how they defended his power spread that he hired Chris Ash 2 years later to be the defensive coordinator to replace Everett Withers. So again, you got to break that down early in the game. And again, that's why it's important to have sharp people upstairs that can give you good information. Because again, the coordination between the upstairs press box guys and the people down on the sideline is absolutely critical. And I don't think people realize how critical it is because especially when your play caller is down on the field, because he's down there running blind and he's banking that what you're telling him is accurate. Because it's a lot easier when I sat next to Tom Herman and I would tell him what defenses and coverage we're getting. And then he'd look at the screen and he's like, yeah, Kirk's on point. Kirk's got everything nailed. And a lot of times I would just do the fronts and I had a guy behind me that would do the coverages just because you can't watch everything at once. But we were good at it, and that helps dramatically when you're trying to call a game. But Nevada, do you think that the performance anxiety is due to the script or off the script, or is it just a function of the game?
Yeah, I've wrestled with that. I just think that when he gets into a game, he's got you think about all the stuff that you've run during practice, all the new stuff that you put in, all the stuff you kind of get, all your wrinkles are kind of the front of your mind, and I think he's kind of got that out there. And then as the game kind of goes, he kind of falls back on tendencies and play, and that's human nature. That's poker theory. They're one on one in terms of when you play against somebody. If you play against somebody long enough, they'll start doing the same thing over and over again, even subconsciously. They don't realize they're doing it, but they do it. And I think that's for Ryan Day, it's a constant battle for him. And I think it's been made worse or more challenging, I should say, by the fact that he doesn't have a Kevin Wilson upstairs that can kind of snap him out of it, because Kevin was a master tactician, an
Yes.
unbelievable play caller, just a savant when it came to offense, and we don't have Kevin Wilson anymore. And so, from my standpoint, it's been the biggest difference, and I think it's been one of the biggest challenges. And I think that's why, sometimes Ryan will get in these funks where he'll get into the stuff, and we can all feel it. We all see it when it kind of comes on, where we're like, man, why are we doing that? Why are we going back to that? Why are we going back to, let's bring in extra tight ends, let's all run them into the box, and then let's run Trey Henderson to the short side and gain 2 yards, and now it's 2nd and 8. It's I I I think that we've seen Ryan escape from that. We've seen him call magnificent games. Clemson, I guess 2020, that was one for the ages. Obviously, the Georgia game last year was really good. Short of the last sequence, but look, he's gonna have to call a good game, and he just needs to stay loose. Ryan, in my opinion, tightens up, and I think if he can avoid tightening up, and he can avoid kind of falling into those funks, then I think we're going to be just fine. But that's, again, another reason why I like to have Ryan Day out there as opposed to Michigan, who's got Sharon Moore, because Ryan Day is one of the best play callers in all of college football, and we got him.
Yeah, I totally agree. Armed Therapy, appreciate you, my man. Thank you so much for the 10. Kirk, did you wear the black uniforms? No, and they're my favorite Ohio State uniforms of all time. So, I mean, you guys know, I mean, my fashion sense is The Undertaker and Johnny Cash if they had like a child somehow and spliced them together, because all I wear is black. And so when they came out with black jerseys with red letter or red numbers, I don't get jealous of anything, but I was very jealous. And I told Jamarco Jones, I was like, because he's my little baby, he was my 74. I said, dude, if you don't want that jersey, I'll pay you a hefty sum. And if any of you Ohio State people, because I know you Ohio State people all listen, I know you guys can make those jerseys. If you want me to write you a nice check, I will do that for a 74 one with my last name on it. Because again, that is my favorite jersey of all time. I never got to wear it. We couldn't even imagine. We weren't even allowed to wear black sweatsuits back in the day. And now like they have all this cool gear that's black, and it very, very, very much infuriates me.
Let me tell. I got to tell a black jersey story, and I've told the story before, but I want to tell it again. Maybe there's a few people that haven't heard it. Maybe I'm the old guy that repeats himself, but I got to tell this story. When Ohio State, back in the day when Andy Geiger was the AD, Andy Geiger and I were, I wouldn't say close, but when he came out to the West Coast, we would get together one on one, have a nice lunch in Las Vegas, hang out stuff, and got to know him, on a pretty good professional level. And this was when Ohio State was in the midst of their terrible funk against Michigan and just could not get over the edge. And I had gone to Andy with the idea. I'm like, hey, what if for the game we came out in an alternate jersey? What if we came out in an alternate jersey for the game? And I had suggested black. I suggested the black because at the time in practice they were the black jersey was known as the pride jersey, and
Mm-hmm.
they would wear that. I'm like, what if we just came out, in all that, just completely freak out, almost like Notre Dame did with the famous green jersey game, way back in the day when they upset USC. I said, what if we did that? I said, I tell you what, Andy, I'll pay for it. I'll buy all the jerseys. All that I want is one of the jerseys as a thing, but I'll pay for the whole thing. So it won't cost the school a dime. What do you think? And Andy liked the idea, and he went to the powers that be at Ohio State at the time, and they're like, no, we're never going to do that. That's a terrible idea. It's all about tradition and it's all about the thing, and we're not going to do that. And so my black jersey idea kind of got scrapped. But dude, I was on that for years, long ago. Before we ever went to the first alternate jersey, I was pitching that thing hard to the powers that be at Ohio State. And so it's kind of funny for now. I see every year they come out with an alternate jersey, and I'm like, hey, so what happened to the tradition of Ohio State now? You know what I'm saying? But anyway, I digress. That was my black
Well,
jersey
well,
story.
I think that they look awesome, but like the Chicago Bulls tradition, with Jordan and everything, they came out with a black jersey and it looked awesome. I mean, they'd wear that on like Sunday when they played the Knicks at Madison Square Garden, that kind of game. And then like my favorite jersey of all time is the Chicago Blackhawks in the mid '90s came out with a black jersey, and they were always white and red, home and away. And the black jersey they had was so awesome. And so I actually have a couple of those. Even the Portland Winterhawks black jersey was awesome. I bought one of those too. Eric Burke, but I appreciate that. Thank you, Armed Theory. Thank you for the 5. If the spread is 3.5 for Michigan, why are you both so confident that OSU will win? Go Bucks. Well, we've been favored a couple times recently against Michigan, and we've lost. We've gotten housed. So I just, I like the matchups. I like the running game. I like our running game with Trey. I like our defense, especially versus their offense. I like Sonny Styles playing strong safety. There's just a lot of things that seem to be breaking our way. I think we're frankly healthier. I think Emeka coming back is a huge shot in the arm to the offense. But I think that the guy who's the absolute X factor, and I've been saying it for 2 weeks now, is Trey Henderson. And again, I've been in Michigan games, again, like in '04, your skill guys have got to be on tilt that game. '04 we had Santonio Holmes, the baddest man who's ever played at Ohio State. We had him in '05. We ran the same play 3 times in a row against their good corner, and they couldn't check Santonio. And Santonio got that stupid penalty where he dove in the end zone. '06, Ted Ginn was magnificent. Gonzo was magnificent. But Pittman he had the game-winning touchdown in '05. He had the long run in '06, and then Beanie, my last game, ran for 220ish yards in a game where literally all we could do was run because it was freezing rain, and it was raining and it was freezing rain, and we couldn't throw it. Like the ball was too slippery. Todd couldn't throw it. So I mean, we literally were one dimensional, and we were able to just pulverize them by running the same simple plays over and over again because we were a more physical and tougher outfit. That was always our calling card with Tress, is we always knew we were the tougher program. We weren't the wine and cheese. We didn't have Latin Club. We didn't eat wine and cheese before the game like Michigan people do. Like we were we put on the steel toed Timberlands and went to work. And that's kind of what we were. And we knew that going into the game that hey, they might think they're whatever, but like guys like me and like James Laurinaitis, like we were not. We were like the Exorcists when we were getting ready for that game because it was not pretty, but we knew the kind of like fury it takes to win in Ann Arbor, and like that's the thing with Trey Henderson. It makes everything better because again, people that are stupid and talked about how they were worried about the second team O line and the O line is going to be terrible. And literally, the only two people on this earth that weren't worried about the O line were me and Nevada Buck. So I was like, we've never not had a good O line. Justin Fry and Ryan Day are going to turn the heat up on those guys, so they're going to be forced to be good. They don't have a choice. They have to be good, and they've been fine. And again, the thing that amplifies their performance is Trey Henderson, because Trey Henderson is absolutely excellent at running back. He is a factor back. He's a guy you're going to be taking in the first or second round of the NFL draft, and then the first or second round of your fantasy draft, like Jahmyr Gibbs, like Bijan Robinson. He's that kind of a dude. He gets the right situation. Again, there's always not a first round pick. Because again, if I'm the Kansas City Chiefs and he's sitting there at 31 or 32 or 30, wherever they're at, and you don't take him, you're absolutely insane. Because he'd be your new kind of Tyreek Hillish type weapon that they don't have right now to offset Kelsey. But what are your thoughts, Nevada? Again, 3-5. I mean, it's fine. I mean, I'll absolutely bet Ohio State if it says 3-5. But your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, you have to remember when you're talking about a 3.5 point favorite. I mean, you're talking about an implied win probability of above 50%, but it's not like it's like 90%. It's not like, oh my gosh, I mean, it's a field goal. They think it's a field goal game. They're attributing most of that mainly in college football to home field advantage, and the reason why home field advantage is worth more in college football than it is in the pros is strictly communication. In the NFLs they allow the helmet communications. In college they don't, and that's literally the difference in the home field spreads. So I think that the Vegas sees this as being kind of a comparable line, comparable teams of comparable skill abilities. And statistically, that's the way they stack up. And I think what the betting public isn't really taking into account is the fact that Ohio State is peaking at just the right time. We're playing our best football of the year. We all know that. We're playing our best football of the year right now. This is not the same team that went into South Bend early in the year. This is certainly not the first team that played against Indiana early in the year. I mean, this is a well-oiled machine right now that is about as healthy as you can be this time of year, and Michigan's not. Michigan's got some problems on the offensive line, and that's going to be an issue for them because they're going to live and die on the fact that they can line the ball up and run the ball down our throats. And I do not believe they're going to be able to do that. And I think that's going to be the difference. I think we're going to take away their run, make them pass to beat us, and when that happens, I like our chances when the ball's in the air.
I totally agree. Sliderman Oz, I like that. Thanks for the 5. Appreciate you, brother. Love the show, fellas. Thank you so much. Again, we put a lot into this, and again, our show isn't anything without you guys because you guys bring awesome questions, awesome energy. So again, thank you guys for participating in the show. It really is a blast to kick it with you guys. Appreciate the film breakdown. I'm going to do one of those tonight. We're going to get into a little bit of film maybe, but tonight I'm going to do a pretty decent Michigan Ohio State film breakdown. A little worried about Kyle and the pocket presence. I think that's something that I'm sure Ryan Day and Todd Finch and Corey Dennis are drilling him to death on. Because, again, some of it is feel, some of it is confidence in your line. But that's something where, he needs to get better at. I mean, frankly, like I was an offensive tackle. Sometimes, Josh Fryer gets whipped to death for giving up a sack, where if Kyle just steps up, it's no thing. And again, if he doesn't improve that, he's not going to be an NFL guy. I mean, he can throw it all day to Marvin and Mecca, but if you don't have pocket presence in the NFL, you're going to get destroyed. Because again, in the NFL, the pass rushers are a billion times better than in college football. Because across the board, like the biggest thing that was different for me in the league is that the D tackles are ultra legit. Not to mention there's always good edge guys, but in the NFL, there's guys that are like superhuman mutants like Nick Bosa and Myles Garrett and those types of guys. But the interior guys are the guys that really evolve. Because there's not like the slow white plugger dudes like in the Big Ten. Those guys don't exist in the NFL. Those guys are twitched up. They're not all Aaron Donald because Aaron Donald's just on a different universe than everybody else. But there's guys that are kind of like Diet Coke or Aaron Donalds that they're a handful and they're twitchy and they're not like the slow white dudes that are in the Big Ten that are easy to block. Your thoughts on the pocket presence, Nevada?
Yeah, I mean that's my biggest complaint with Kyle is just. Yep. And what we're talking about specifically is just that feel, that ability to kind of slide around in the pocket. And and you see the great quarter. I mean, this is the difference with the great quarterback. The great quarterbacks, when you look at the NFL, when you talk about guys like Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, those guys, they just have ability. You know, they're not like super. They're not Lamar Jackson where they're all running around and doing it, but they just have the ability to slide a foot here or take a step to the left
Yep.
here or step up here, and they just know they have just an innate ability to be able to do that and then still deliver the ball and know when to break contain, when not to, what to do in that situation. And you know, I think it's the biggest weakness of Kyle. Can it be coached out of him? Um, Maybe. I think part of it's kind of just natural. That's why when Kyle gets a clean pocket and he can step into his throws, man, he guns it. But Michigan's going to try to bring the pressure. Michigan's going to try to bring the heat, and we know that. And it's going to be up to Kyle sometimes. So I I actually, believe it or not, yesterday where we did the zone reaction and he kind of ran, and this is after he'd been hit. This was in the second half, and they're running Kyle McCord. That actually didn't bother me because it's just like that's what he's gonna have to do up in Ann Arbor. He's gonna have to run. He's gonna have to run when he breaks contain. He's gonna have to run on some design runs. He's gonna have to put it all on the line because it doesn't matter if we don't beat Michigan. If we don't beat Michigan, nothing matters. So you're gonna have to do it all. And I think for Kyle, I'm hopeful he can get there and hopefully he can deliver a big game on Saturday.
Yeah, I totally agree. Ryan Coolidge, appreciate you, my man. Thank you for the 20. That's huge. Thank you so much for supporting us. Yes or no? Will the cheaters up north sideline look the same for the game as it did yesterday versus Maryland? Whew, man, that's one I don't know if I want to be pinned to, but if they whack Jay Harbaugh or they find now again, does it matter who it is? Because again, they might whack another one of these young coaches that was complicit in it, or they might not have to make a big press release announcement about it. But I'll say no. Again, I might be putting myself out there a little bit, but it's like I just think as this thing continues on, again, is this like Charlie Patridge getting whacked on Friday afternoon, like while he's probably eating lunch, at Schembechler Hall, they whack him, so. Again, there's going to be young guys that are going to get fired. I think they're all going to get fired, honestly, because it goes all the way up the food chain. This isn't like something where, it's just the linebacker coach and Justin Yoon and Connor Sounds. Like, no, like when these coordinators are calling plays on the sideline, because here's the other thing, both of their play callers are on the sideline. So, like Jim Knowles sits up in the booth. In the past we've had, like with Urban, you'd have one of the guys upstairs, he had Tom Herman upstairs. When they finally put Ed Warner's upstairs for that 2015 Michigan game, the offense magically exploded because again, it's much easier to call plays from the booth. And when Ed was at Kansas, he was always upstairs. But Ed was also the quarterbacks coach. Again, like that's the perfect marriage is quarterbacks coach, OC, standalone O-line coach, and then head coach. But I'll say no. I mean, I think that some young coach could get whacked, so I'll be right. But I wouldn't bet much on that. But I just think that, this has been such a wacky scandal that, every day there's something new breaking or something new and crazy. And, I think if that Justin Yoon kid and some of these people that, are kind of bent about Michigan want to distract the team more, they'll leak more information about the investigation. What are your thoughts about it?
Well, it's funny because I think it was I can't remember if it was Heather Dinich or Nicole Auerbach or something, but she came out with some sort of a comment about the Big Ten's focus is on countable coaches, and I flagged this, but that wasn't a throwaway line. The Big Ten and the NCAA are focusing on the 10, on the guys, and that's when Partridge went down. We knew that was going to be one of the first. We didn't know it was going to be him, but we knew it was going to be one of the first. They were going to get somebody in terms of that. But the focus is on countable coaches. So I just don't know about the timing. I say timing these things is always dicey. So I just don't know. I know they're close. I know they're closing in. I know they're focused on the accountable coaches. I just don't know what's going to happen this week. But I know that I know it's an active investigation. That stuff is coming in literally every single day on. So stay tuned.
And so accountable coaches, just for people that aren't familiar with the vernacular, excuse me, is every team has 10 coaches that can be accountable coaches. The biggest difference is that they can recruit, they can go on the road and recruit. So when I was a graduate assistant, I was allowed to coach, but I couldn't go on the road and recruit. There's only so many guys that are legally allowed to coach, like during practice, during the game. There's 10 accountable coaches and there's 4 GAs, and that's it. The quality control coaches, like right now we have Joe Philbin, Devin Jordan. We've got a bunch of these guys that are QCs. They're not legally allowed to coach. So like when you watch those guys on the sideline, they don't have headsets on. They're not, I mean, they're in the mix, but they're not actively coaching because again, you're not legally allowed to. Now you can help run scout team. There's like little intricacies you can do, but I knew him just because I was a QC for a year, and it was completely miserable. And for whatever reason, like back then, I was able to have a headset. Like Devin doesn't have a headset. I watch him every week, and I would honestly just sit in the locker room if I didn't have a headset. I'd have no idea what was going on. I just feel like completely worthless. But that's the rule, and we actually follow the rules, and we've got a very heavy-handed compliance department at Ohio State. So it is what it is. But they when they fired their linebacker coach Charlie Partridge on Friday, they were able to promote Rick Minter, who's a quality control coach, into being accountable 10 coach. So he gets a headset on game day. He can legally coach. He's coaching linebackers this week. So you've got a guy that's been in the program, and now he has to coach the linebackers versus Trey Henderson and our line. So good luck. But he's a guy that was the head coach at Cincinnati. He actually recruited me back in 2003. And he's Jesse Minter's dad. So they gave him a gig as a QC. He's probably making 150, 200 to help his kid out a little bit. So, but that's why it helps to have a roster of those guys on the thing. Because if something happens unforeseen, and I'm not saying that you keep a bullpen of guys in the Woody Hayes to do that, but when guys leave to take jobs, you've got people in the program that you have a scouting report on. You could say if Justin Fry went to become the head coach of Indiana tomorrow, and you really like what Joe Philbin did this year, you could potentially promote him to being your being your line coach. Now he's a little old and he's not a recruiter, so that probably wouldn't happen. But if you had a younger guy or someone who's kind of in the mix, like, it's just a way that guys stay in the game and keep learning. But that was a great question. So I appreciate you. M. DeLuca 907, thank you so much for the 10. Nevada is a combination of Chuck Norris and the most interesting man in the world from the Dos Equis commercials. I agree. I've been out with them. It is unlike anything I've ever seen when we go out, especially when we're out in Vegas. It is because nobody knows we're there. We're like a stealth operation, but it's a blast, and it is fun. Show your love. Destroy the clowns up north. Who will be the offensive and defensive players of the game? Appreciate you, M. DeLuca. You're one of our best guys. You're on here all the time, so thank you for your support. Nevada, this is not a gun to your head. This is not a prediction, but as of Sunday, if I said, hey, you've got $1 million to pick on O and D, each to pick one. Yeah, you got to give me a name. Who you picking?
Marvin Harrison on offense and Josh Proctor on defense.
All right, I'm going to go Trey Henderson because I am absolutely shocked that you did not pick our boy. I'm picking Trey, and I'm going to double down. I really like Jack Sawyer. I really like, he goes over that right tackle. That right tackle's had major issues all year. Jack is flying high right now. I just think that Jack's been good all year, but it's like one of those things where he does a lot of stuff that you don't get stats for setting the edge and fitting the run game, and he's only got like whatever 3 or 4 sacks, but and he's been bludgeoned by our fan base, which is crazy because I'm like, guys, like, look at what this guy's doing on the field, and he's been totally selfless. He's a great kid. But between him and JT, I love that matchup. Again, and you guys can hold me to it, but I think our ends are really, really good. I think JT Tuimoloau and Jackson are really, really good, and they're really, really good against the run. So I'm excited about that. But thank you again. Great question. Scheffler Healthcare, appreciate you, my man. Thank you for the 26, $17. See, I like that's kind of the score it's going to be to me. It's going to be a fist fight. It could be ugly. I think we're going to have a tough time moving the ball up and down the field with RB dive. We move the ball much better and force JJ into some mistakes. Are you worried about Kyle's turnover worthy plays? Well, I am a little bit because he does get a little loose with the ball. Again, the play of the game, maybe the play of the season was that Penn State play where they, we were not on the ropes, but it wasn't looking super hot. And he vomits the ball up, and the big fat guy picks it up and runs like 70 yards. And I mean, I'm sitting in the stadium, and the entire stadium, it was like a morgue. It was so quiet, and you just see the big fat dude run down, and nobody can catch him. And again, he has to take care of the football. Again, the keys to beating Michigan, I'll give you the three keys. You have to outrush them. You have to beat them in the running game. You have to not turn the football over, and you have to win special teams. That was Jim Tressel's formula, and he went, I don't know what, like 10-1 against them, and it was like, and then we would look at the statistics, and we would outrush them. We'd stop their running game, and we would outrush them. We wouldn't turn the ball over, and then we would be excellent on special teams. Like we'd return punts. We wouldn't take stupid penalties. We'd fair catch, whatever it took. Again, there's always like special teams are always a great equalizer. Nobody cares about them, and honestly, they aren't as dynamic as they used to be just because of the fair catch rules on kickoffs and whatever. But again, it can kill you when you make mistakes on them now. And again, we've been horrendous on special teams for 2 years now. And again, when we needed the special teams the most, like against Michigan last year with the fake punt, against Georgia last year with a fake punt twice, and then to kick a field goal to win it, to potentially go win the national championship, they failed us in spectacular fashion. So again, James Laurinaitis knows special teams better than the guy coaching it now, and that'd be my guy I'd promote. But again, what do I know other than the fact that James is one of the greatest players in Ohio State history, and he's a way better coach and better recruiter. But your thoughts, Nevada? You got to pick an O. We picked the O and D. Are you worried about Kyle's turnover-worthy plays?
I mean, look, turnovers are the devil. You know that. It's, you have to avoid it. But, I'm not, I think, for Kyle, and I hope Kyle's approaching this thing going in is just go play and not worry about it. And I hope Brian Day doesn't worry about it. I hope we don't get consumed by trying to avoid the bad play, and it keeps us from making the good play. I think, I look back on that, those great games, and again, I don't want to go back in the Wayback Machine, but
Yeah.
You guys would run, stuff that we have, 3rd and 1, and you run the pass, the fake thing, and the pass to Teddy from the tight end position, and just sometimes you just got to just go out there and just let her rip and see what happens. And I think we're going to be just fine. I've got the game at like 24-14. I think it's going to be low scoring. I'm going to go under for sure, but I think Michigan's really going to struggle to move the ball consistently against us, and we'll get it up. We'll get a couple of big plays out of our guys. And the reason I went with Marvin over my son Trey is because I think that they're going to make a concerted effort I think they feel like it's our biggest advantage is Marvin Harrison, and I think I think in the back of their minds they know that he'll have a chance to win the Heisman, and I think he deserves that. He deserves to have his Heisman moment, kind of like Desmond Howard had, or kind of like Charles Woodson had. I think he deserves to have his Heisman moment, and I think it's going to be this Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is one where I've talked about exceptional performances from receivers. Like again, every time I see Santonio Holmes, I talk about that. I'm like, dude, like 04, 05, again, I'm not the guy, I got 6 pairs of gold pants, and Troy Smith is 4 of them, and then Tress is the other 2 when I was coaching. But like those guys, like I'm forever gracious that our skill guys were such dogs, like such animals out there. Because Santonio just destroyed Marlon Jackson in 04, and Marlon Jackson was like, he was that number one. He was like the Jeff Okuda top 5-ish, top 10-ish. He slid a little bit. He still went first round, but before that game, he was talking like he's a top 5 pick. And then, so Santonio turned him into barbecue chicken and just cooked him out there. And all of a sudden it was, no more top 10 pick for you because Santonio just ate your lunch. But I think that the big time skill guys are the ones that have to win this game. Because I think the trenches will be pretty even. They always are at Ohio State, Michigan. We always have good O lines and good D lines, and they run into each other. But the skill guys are what win it. And this is coming from a guy that was a starting right tackle. Again, I don't like to go through my credentials. First team All American. I beat Michigan 4 times as a starter. Never gave up a sack. Never had a penalty. Grade out champion all 4 games. So I know what I'm talking about. I could pancake my guy every single play against Michigan, and if our skill guys don't do anything, we lose. So it is what it is. But I had to say that real quick. Jim Foster, you doubled up for us. I appreciate you, my man. Thank you for the 5. And then also you followed up with the question. So thank you for the 10. Thank you, brother. If Michigan players know stolen signals played a part in last season's success, do you think that not having it impacts their run? That is a fantastic question, Jim. Thank you so much. I've been waiting for, I've talked about that a little bit. It's like, again, I just keep going back to if that's how you're going to conduct your business, if that's how you're going to do things, you know, when all of a sudden the music stops and you get found out, you really don't have like a true skill set to be excellent and to decipher things. Again, that is such a slippery slope when you decide to do that. Because I think that you've got you know you got to be able to run the show in game and decipher things and figure things out. But I just think that when you decide to accept that stuff, you're gonna kind of rob Peter to pay Paul. Like you're not going to develop your ability to read an offense and get a feel for it when you've got basically like a cheat code over your shoulder and Connor Stallions telling you like it's a run to the right, or because even like he might not say the exact run, but even if you say run to the right, like you can bring a corner blitz or an edge pressure, or you can bring your safeties down or whatever. Like I mean, that's enough where you lose your development as a coordinator and as a play caller when you've got a guy telling you what the plays are. Again, it's like if your kid's taking an online quiz, and he's in high school, and you tell him you're googling the answers for him, like your kid's not going to get any smarter when he actually applies something. So, but what are your thoughts on that, Nevada? Again, Jim, that's a fantastic question. Nevada, again, the question is: if Michigan players know stolen signals played a part in past success, do you think that not having them impacts their mindset going into this game? And I said absolutely. But your thoughts on that, Nevada?
No, I think it's a great point. I think it's a point that's not really, again, not really been discussed a lot. And I love hearing stuff like this where people haven't talked about. We try to make one of our core values here to make people smarter and better and kind of more insightful fans. But I think this point is spot freaking on, because I think it affects the coordinators for sure, and it absolutely affects the players, because the players
Yeah.
have been cheating. They've been, for the past 2 years. They've been cheating, and that's not trying to like lay a moniker of cheaters on Michigan. They are, but they were cheating. They were cheating. They were taking the easy way out. They were kind of cutting corners. They were using Google. They were using AI. They were using Chegg. They were using Quizlet, whatever it is. And now that stuff's taken away. Now you don't have the answer key anymore, and you got to play it sort of. So does that kind of enter the back of your mind like a seed of doubt? I think it absolutely does, and I
Yeah.
think it's real, and I think it's look, Michigan covered the spread at a ridiculous like 19-5 or 18-5 against the Big Ten opponents over the last 2 years. The last three games since Connor Stalions been, they are 1-2 against the spread with a lucky cover against Penn State.
Yep.
So they are not performing up to expectations. They are not performing at the same level that they were. And statistically, it's significant. Like you can look at
Yeah.
it, look at their performance in the second half. They got outscored in the second half by Maryland yesterday.
Mhm.
Like that hadn't happened in like that type of stuff where they're these second half laying these eggs. Man, that hadn't happened. And there's a reason for it. And it's not all just about emotional letdowns and ebbs and distractions. There's been a fundamental change in the way that they are approaching their offense and their defense, because they don't have the advantage of knowing the opponent's plays before they're called, and that makes a big difference. A great question, great point, and I think it's going to be on display front and center next weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. David Haskins, this is another great question. St. Streley seems overly aggressive coverage guy. Do you think OC tries to more double move routes to take advantage? I I think, I mean, again, you can try to be aggressive if you want, but man, I'm telling you, if you want to be aggressive versus Marvin and Emeka, especially now that Emeka's healthy, good luck. I mean, because again, those guys can, not only can they beat you and are their releases really clean, but if you're aggressive against them, I mean, they can take that to the crib. That's those little outs and whatever, they go from 15 yards to 70 yards. So, yeah, but I mean, I would hit a double move with Emeka for sure. Obviously Marvin is Marvin. Marvin can do whatever he wants out there. He's been playing great. But what do you think, Nevada? Are we aggressive? I think we're going to be very aggressive versus these guys.
Well, I mean, Emeka being healthy for the first time in a long time, almost the whole year, was absolutely huge. We talked about this little yesterday on the show, but to me, that was the story of the game yesterday, because the game was never in doubt, and it was just a question of how many they were going to score, and was Ohio State going to get? Was the game going to go under 51 so Nevada Buck made more money, which they did. But Emeka, playing well, playing without limitation, and playing the way he did. I mean, he looked good, and he's going to look better next week because he just needed to get game reps out there. He needed to kind of get that time, but he's moving without limitation now, and I'd say he's virtually at 100%. And what a beautiful time for it to happen because Batman to Robin can really complement Marvin well, and I think it's going to pay big dividends next weekend in Ann Arbor.
Yeah, I totally agree. Another one. These are always cool stories. I get these sometimes. Weiss Bookie Services, again, one of the best names on all of YouTube. So appreciate you being a part of this. Met Kirk, my senior high school lineman camp. I'm assuming you came to Ohio State, one of their camps over the summer. Super cool guy. Again, I remember being that kid and meeting the coaches, and I remember I met Luke Fickle. Luke Fickle was 50 starts and whatever, and he was ultra cool to me when I was just a young junior in high school, and you never forget that because you grow up hearing seeing guys talking, hearing them on TV, whatever, and it's always cool when you meet someone and they're just cool. And again, I always just try to be cool with everybody because again, it's just I appreciate that so much, and I always would try to help my Ohio linemen out just because I always wanted them. The ones that had a shot to get an Ohio State offer, I just know how it changes your life forever and ever and ever. And that's why I went really hard with Bowles to get Elfline. I was I really like this kid. I think he's got a lot of upside. He doesn't look like Laramie Tunsil or anything, but you can get stuff done with guys that aren't the most genetically gifted guys in the world. You can get stuff done with you got to have the requisite size and athleticism, obviously, but his toughness, his agility. His mindset, I loved his parents. His dad was like a bricklayer, a super, super, super blue collar family. I loved everything about him. His parents were, I knew it would change the parents' life. I knew it would change his life. Pat's on year 6 in the NFL right now. So again, I root for those kids. I'd always try to coach all the kids at camp, just like they were, Paris Johnson or whoever the 5-star kid was, just because I think that's the fairest way to do things, and try to give some kids some tips and tricks that, frankly, I wish that people would have told me when I was younger. That's how I always looked at it when I still talk to Jamarco Jones and Nick Petit-Frere and these kids. I'm like, look, here's some stuff that when I was playing, I wish I would have known, because nobody told me this stuff. So I'd empty the notebook of things that here's what you think about. Here's how you read the safeties. Here's how look at the D lineman stance. Look at the slot guy. Is there a safety over top the slot corner? If there is, he's probably got to be blitzing. So you better point it out and tell people. This little things that I learned from not just my time at Ohio State, but playing in the NFL. Coaching obviously was a that was the Excalibur sword was coaching, and especially coaching under Urban Meyer. I learned more about football that one year than probably my other 38 years combined, just because it was so thorough and in depth. And frankly, it was Vietnam every day. So I mean, you had to be locked in all the time. So you basically remembered everything. But so I appreciate that super chat, Nevada. We still have 3 more reasons because we said we're gonna give the 5 reasons. So you want Marvin Harrison, I want Sharon Moore. What is the third reason why Ohio State will beat Michigan?
I'm thinking JT Tumalal. JT is just he's got a knack for the big game. He just seems to always have come up, and there's just guys like that make the plays when the lights are shining the brightest. And it's a question of, do you have those guys, or does the other team have those guys? And I think he'll make a play, or he'll make a couple of plays, or he'll make 3 plays. He'll do something spectacular at just the right time when we need it to swing this game. And big players make big plays in the big games, and that's why JT's my number 3 reason.
Well, I mean, I got to take your boy again. I got to take Trey Henderson. I just think Trey Henderson he's on one of those paths right now where I think that this Michigan game, he's already a star, but this game could launch him into superstardom. And I think that he's the kind of guy he's got one of those runs. Because again, Trey's gone after this year. He played his last game in the shoe. He's going to the league. He's going to be top pick. And and he's missed a lot of time, a lot of questions about durability, a lot of whatever, and there's exceptionally stupid people I'm not going to name their screen names, but I could, and to embarrass them. That no vision. Mayan Williams is better. And honestly, those people should never be allowed to speak about football in any Ohio State message board sphere again. But we'll just exile them and send them to lesser places. But with that being said, Trey he's possible. He's got this ability where he could go on a surge like Ezekiel did in 2014. You got to remember, like Ezekiel Elliott. I loved Ezekiel Elliott. We recruited him. We liked him better than Derek Green. He was like the fifth rated running back in the nation, and we liked him over all the other guys because he was a hurdler. He was aggressive. He was a great kid, great family. And I just think that you have to remember in 2014. I mean, everyone remembers Ezekiel having the monstrous Wisconsin game, the monstrous Bama game, the Oregon game. It's like Ezekiel was second team All Big Ten that year. Like he wasn't even first team All Big Ten going into that search. He might not have even been that. He might have been honorable. I mean, but he wasn't All Big Ten. So it wasn't like going into that Wisconsin game, he was this stone cold top 5 NFL pick. And I mean, I knew that he had that ability, and I knew he had that gear to him. But like leading up to that Wisconsin game, none of the voters picked him as All Big Ten, which is it sounds insane at this point, given that he went top 5 and in an era where running backs don't go top 5. But I think that Trey could start his surge very much like Ezekiel, very much like Trey Sermon had in 2020, where Trey Sermon was a guy. I had people that were at training camp every day saying this guy is like he's like Alvin Kamara. He's a factor back. He's the best player. I had a guy literally. It was at practice that he's the best player on the entire team. 2020. This is when we had Fields. This is the year that we went to the national championship game, and so we went with that, and literally he didn't play, and he watched, and and I'm sitting there and I'm like, and I called him. I was like, did you have the wrong number? Because like we're eating a lot of like crap on this. We said that he was so good, and he just stands there and holds a clipboard all game. And then they finally had to play him because I think Master got hurt, and they had to play Trey, and he runs for like 350 yards versus Northwestern, and he runs like 300 yards against Clemson. And I'm like, and then my guy texts me back, and he's like, "I told you he's good." And I was like, so again, like sometimes like I don't know what like our running backs coach looks at sometimes when I see his rotations and he plays Trey Henderson behind like Master Teague and Mayan Williams, but it happens. It is what it is. But I think that Trey he's got one of those in him, and if Trey gets red hot, then look out, world. All right, Nevada, we've got one reason left. What is your pick?
Well, before I go to that, I want to say one more thing about Trey, and I don't know if people have noticed this. People probably don't know this about Trey, but Trey's been kind of on a, and I don't want to get too far afield on this, but Trey's a real spiritual kid, and he's been kind of on a spiritual journey throughout his time at Ohio State. I mean, really deeply, profoundly spiritual. And if you notice, like on his eye block now, he's going with the Bible verses underneath his eye. I mean, he's a really neat kid, man. He is a really special
Mm-hmm.
kid. He's a kid that you really want to root for, and he's not going to be denied, man. I'm telling you, he feels like he is right where he wants to be, right where he needs to be, and he's right physically, he's right emotionally, he's right spiritually, and I agree with you. I think he's gonna pop off big time, and but part of it is that spiritual strength and that belief that's coming from inside of him, and it's great to see considering everything that he's been through. But my number one reason is Ryan Day. I
Yep.
mean, Ryan Day
Yep.
is a big time. I've always said that winning in college football, college head coaching is almost determinative of success. That's why a guy like Urban Meyer could go and win at Bowling Green and win at Utah and win at Florida and win at Ohio. Just Nick Saban could go win at LSU and win at Bama and win. I mean, great coaches can win anywhere. They can win anywhere, and they win everywhere. And the fact that Michigan's down a pint from their coaching standpoint, they've got some instability, and we've got Ryan Day he's been in the biggest games. He's been in national championship games. He's been in 2 games against Clemson. He's been in Ohio State, Michigan games. He's played Georgia. He's played. I mean, look, he's done it all. He'll be there. Will he be perfect? I hope so, but he'll be better than the other guy. And ultimately, that's what's going to come down to win this game is being better than the other guy. And I think we'll be better, and I think that's why we'll win.
No, I couldn't agree more. I think Ryan, and again, Ryan, he's had to deal with this town for 2 years, losing to Michigan and then the Georgia loss. And so, again, he knows what's at stake. He knows that he has better players and a better team and a more focused team. Um, but I just think that he's up for this is the biggest game he's ever coached in by far. It's not even close because not only obviously the Georgia game was huge in the playoffs, but it's just like and he played Bama in the national championship. But like when he played Bama in the national championship, like, we lost Tommy Togiai and we lost like a bunch of good players. And frankly, we were underdogs. That was an amazing Bama team, and nobody really anticipated that we'd beat them. But this Michigan team is a wounded animal, and wounded animals will fight really hard. So, he's going against a team that they suspended their coach, so their head coach isn't going to be there. So he has to go against Sharon Moore's coaching his like third or fourth game ever. So I think he might have coached one at the beginning of the season. He's got two under his belt now, but so that guy's coaching is like third or fourth game, and he has to face off against Ryan Day, Ohio State, a team that frankly is physically better than they are. And I think that we'll get good Ryan again. Like, if good Ryan shows up, spreads the field, we run some of the horizontal runs that have been really good that I love. I think it deletes their advantage they have on the interior. I don't think they have a huge advantage, but I'd say they have a slight advantage. They're 2D tackles versus our interior. But Matt Jones has been fantastic. Carson is coming along. He's still young. Donnie, again, is playing better than he did at the beginning of the year. So, but again, you can delete those big fat guys when it's not running at them. Because like if you got to make those guys run sideline to sideline, and honestly, what I would do is I'd go hurry up and make those guys suck wind and feel like they want to kill themselves because they've got to run 6-7 plays in a row, and you keep them on the field. They don't get to sub out. That's what I do. I guess if you're gonna run a guy who weighs 340 in the middle, we're going hurry up, and we're gonna see how much he loves football and see how close he is to God. Because once those 340 guys that once they play about 7 or 8 plays in a row, they're looking to tap their helmet and get out of that game because that's what they're used to. That's what they're trained to do. They're used to playing 2 plays, 3 plays, and head on out. And I'd wear those guys out till the end of the time. But that's a great list. There's our 5. Big Brew. Appreciate you. Thank you for the 5. New to the channel. Thank you for subscribing again. Tell your friends. Our channel has had exceptional growth this month, so thank you guys. Would love to see OSU win, but what are the reasons OSU doesn't win? I like to see both sides of the thought process. Nevada, I'll let you take that first, and then I'll come in with my thoughts.
I mean, just weird plays, deflected balls, fumbles that are picked up and returned for things, special team gaffes. Look, refereeing in football is overpowered. It is. If the other team gets 3 or 4 calls and you don't get 3 or 4 calls, that can be the difference between 3 or 4 possessions. And when you're handicapping these games, it's all about who gets the possessions, how many points possessions you get. When you always wonder like how they're setting live odds and stuff like that, that's all what it is. It's just math. It's based upon who has the ball, what's the probability of them getting in scoring points, and how many possessions are each team going to have. So when officials either extend drives or take drives away would be an example would be bogus holding penalty. Extending drive would be bogus pass interference call or whatever it might be. So stuff like that, that's how you lose games like this, and hopefully we can avoid the weird stuff happening.
Yeah, I agree. I think the thing that turnovers, obviously negative plays, those are ways you lose. I think honestly, like I've said all week, it comes down to the skill guys making plays. You have to hit those plays. Like the one time I lost to Michigan in 2011, which I count it, but that was the fickle year, 7 losses. I mean, that was like, we lose Terrell Pryor, so we're going to start Braxton. So that was a year that I've kind of erased, but it still counts, and I was a GA. But, we had a chance to win that game. You go watch it, the skill guys got to make plays. Braxton Miller, Devere Posey, who is a very, very underrated receiver, who was an excellent receiver. And he was suspended for 8 games that year. And he finally got to come back for the last 2 games, including the Michigan game. Destroyed a cornerback on a go route, and Braxton had him wide open, and it literally would have been a touchdown to win the game with like not much time left, and Braxton just came out of his shoes and overthrew Devere. So again, when I talk about skill guys making plays, that includes the quarterback getting the ball to the guy, because Devere did everything perfect. I mean, he cooked the receiver, he topped him. Topping him means like you get past him and then you stack your hips so that he can't get, when you're on a go route, you want to stack the guy. He got past him. And I was watching that in the press box, and I was like, "Oh my god, we're about to score on like a walk-off touchdown because Devere just killed that guy." And Braxton threw it, and like I said, he didn't hit it. Again, and I love Braxton Miller. He's one of the greatest kids ever. Kid that basically saved our season in 2012 multiple times, but he didn't hit that pass. He hits that pass, we beat him. Even the worst Ohio State team in history was like 3 feet away in terms of how far away that ball was from Devere's hands of beating him. So again, it comes down to the skill guys making plays. How do we not beat them? We don't make plays. We drop balls. Like Marvin has been much better recently, but he had the dropsies earlier in the season. Our line has got to, again, our line just has to get a stalemate. If offense wins, the offensive line wins all stalemates versus a defense. That's like one of the creeds of offensive line play. You win the stalemates. If you just cover guys up and you get Trey some space, he's going to do the rest. Like you don't have to. There's this notion with offensive line play that it's like you have to pulverize everybody on every play, and everybody has to get pancaked, and like stuff that like when you play Madden on rookie mode happens. But like when you're playing like a real team in the Big Ten, like Michigan or Penn State, like you're not going to pancake those guys every play. I mean, they've got really good players too. You might be able to do that against Akron or Kent State, but when you're playing Michigan, you got to cover the guys up, block them. The double team has to get movement, and then you have to let your running back do his thing. And again, like I always go back to, again, I'm not way back machine guy, but Truss was the ultimate chameleon because like in '06 we ran like the spread offense air raid because Ron English, their D coordinator, loved to disguise blitzes, and Jim Bowman and Jim Tressel literally came up with this scheme where it's like, well, if we go 5 wide empty, they can't disguise anything because you have to declare who's covering who when you're that spread out. Now, if it's all condensed, you can disguise it a lot more. And that was something we'd never done. And literally, Jim Bowman's like, "Hey, O line, the game's on you. You got to be able to pass block versus Lamar Woodley and Alan Branch, and I mean all their guys got drafted up front. And Branch it should have been a first round pick, and Woodley should have been. Woodley went second round. Those are like 2 first rounders. There were 2 guys really highly projected, and I was like, all right, well, we can, it was on us. We're going to block him. And it's on Troy to get rid of the ball, too, because if they bring 6 and we only have 5 blockers, Troy's got to get rid of the ball or he's got to get his head cracked into. But I think that, it comes down to the skill guys. If our skill guys don't make plays, then it's not going to be a good day for us. I got another super chat. Appreciate you, Duncan Wan. Thanks for the 10. Do you think Jesse Minter was exposed by Maryland's comeback, having to call defense without Connor's help? I do. I mean, again, the thing that's been weird is, they had Mike McDonald, who was there for 1 year and went to the Ravens, and Jesse Minter shows up. And again, most guys that are like first year coordinators, like have some sort of a hiccup or some sort of a, they like a moment in time where they don't look that great. But magically, like 2 different coordinators who've never coordinated before both look fantastic, calling the defense for Michigan, again, because they were cheating. And the same with Sherrone Moore. Like when Sherrone Moore went from, running backs coach to O-line coach, and he'd never I mean, I looked at his resume, I was like, this guy's never coached a. Now he played O-line. He was a junior college kid, then he played at Oklahoma for 2 years. We're almost the same age. I mean, we had overlap when we were in college, but I was like, that is going to be their play caller, a guy who's never called plays, and he's like a running backs coach. He's coached like 5 different positions. Like, it was really peculiar to me. And then he steps in and they're dominant. And you just don't see that. That's why I was like, something like really stinks. Like you have 2 brand new coordinators and they're calling plays like they're like Bill Walsh and Bill Belichick when he was the DC for the New York Giants back in the 80s. Like it didn't make any sense to me. But Nevada, do you think Jesse Minter was exposed by Maryland's comeback?
Well, I just think it's different. And, what I would, I wish that I had the time and I wish somebody could do this, but to go back to the 2001 season and kind of focus on the Michigan sideline, and just kind of watch the evolution of Connor Stallions in his proximity to the coordinators and the play callers. You know what I'm saying? Like go from game 1 to game 2 to game 3, and just kind of see if you can kind of see him, it, because how this deal played out. I mean, when you're running around in your mind and you go, man, this guy comes up with this idea. It's pitched in by somebody like on a message board. He finds Uncle T who will, support them, provide the money to do it, and he starts doing it, and he starts realizing, hey, this really works, and how do I approach the coaches about this, and what do I do, and and then as the coaches see it and become more and more dependent on it, he evolves from being this, obscure, whatever you want to call me, a graduate assistant, helper, or whatever, to indispensable. You got to stay on my shoulder the whole game, type of thing. I'd love to watch the evolution of that. That would be a really fun thing to do. To go back to the 2001 Michigan game films, go back to the 2002 Michigan game films, and to see you play kind of Where's Waldo with Connor Stallions and see how he kind of ended up where he was, because it's one of the more incredible stories. And somebody's going to do that. Somebody will do that. Some motivated person with editing ability will do that, and it'll be fabulous.
Yeah, I think it's going to be absolutely, it's absolutely crazy. Well, wrap this thing up, my man. Appreciate you guys. Nevada, final thoughts. We gave our top 5 reasons. It was Marvin. It was Sharon Moore. It was Trey Henderson. It was Ryan Day. I can't remember what your third one was, but do you remember what your third one was? JT Tumala. Okay. Yeah, so there you go. There's your 5. So we went Marvin. We went Sharon Moore. We went JT. I went Trey, which I was shocked that was still on the board. And then you went Ryan Day, the head duck. What are your thoughts? And let's wrap this thing up.
I am betting Ohio State. I am betting Ohio State plus the points. I am betting the under on the game. Those are my picks. I tell you guys my picks because this is not one of those things where we claim victory after the fact and be like, oh, I knew that was going to happen. Like, I tell you the stuff before the games, and you guys know what my record is this year. You guys know what my picks are. I'm not shy about it, but that's what I'm going. I'm putting real money where my mouth is on that. I believe it. I think, I look, it's sports, anything. I had a hammer bet on an MMA thing yesterday where the guy was so much better, and the other guy hit him with a punch, and the guy went out. So I know anything can happen when you're when you're betting. So look, but I'm putting my money where my mouth is, and I truly believe that's going to happen. And let's go. Let's get it on.
It's like Mir versus Lesnar when Brock absolutely killed Mir, and then all of a sudden Mir caught him in an ankle lock that wasn't really an ankle lock, and Brock had to tap.
God.
Like one of those. I was at that fight, and I was like, oh my God, he might kill this guy. And then all of a sudden Frank caught him, and it was just like the funniest thing ever. And the funny thing was, I was rooting for Brock Lesnar because everyone used to say I looked like Brock Lesnar, and I got sick of it. So and everyone in the arena booed him when he walked in. Everyone hated him. And I was like, I like this guy because like everyone hates me too, so it's perfect. All right, Smart Axe Dude. I like that name. That's great. A way to get around the censorship. Another super chat before the buzzer. Again, you guys ought to prolong these things. You guys start sending these super chats in like machine guns right as we're trying to wrap. But I love it, so I'll stay on as long as you guys want. We'll keep the party rolling. OSU needs to prepare as if Michigan is still cheating. I totally agree with that. Watch the runs by the quarterback. I totally agree. I think spying the quarterback is huge this week. I think it's a Seal Chambers kind of deal because Seal's got the agility to stick with JJ McCarthy. Take nothing for granted. Totally agree. Prove the Buckeyes are better. Excellent points. Agree with all of it. Appreciate that, Nevada. I mean, watch the run. Stop the run. Spy the quarterback. And prepare like they're still cheating. You agree with all that?
Yeah, spy the quarterback's big. That got to stop McCarthy's legs is the only thing that's scary. Got to stop that, and that'll take care of the whole game.
I totally agree. Well, we're going to wrap this thing up, folks. Again, appreciate you guys, again, supporting the channel. Thank you guys for all you guys do. Again, if you guys want the best Ohio State experience on the internet, the #1 Ohio State website now officially is BuckeyeScoop.com. The best inside information. We've had a monstrous month of new memberships, so thank you guys for joining. Again, thank you for all you guys. I was at the game yesterday, and people stopped me outside the stadium and say how much they enjoy the experience on BuckeyeScoop.com. Again, we keep it very high level, very high end. It's not for everybody. It's only for the good people. Again, we moderate it heavily. Not every site does that. So we make sure that it's nice and clean because we have very, very good people on there. And we'd love for you to be one of them. So we appreciate you guys so much. If you enjoyed this video, please leave us a like. Click subscribe. Also click that little alert bell. Also, we have Buckeye Scoop Ultra, which is a new way to support our YouTube page. Again, we bring the heat for you guys every night. We enjoy it. So if you guys want to be a part of our Ultra membership, check that out. That is on our YouTube page. You just click subscribe. We're going to do a few Ultra chats, probably at least one a month, where it's just Ultra members. So it's a growing crowd right now, but it'll be really exclusive stuff. It'll be a blast. Again, appreciate you guys so much. Thank you guys for all you guys do for us, and thank you for supporting the channel. with that being said, give me your score predictions. I want to hear those down in the comments. And shout out where you guys are watching from and what are you guys doing for the game? Are you guys watching it at a house party? Do you guys watch it alone? I'm going to be watching it alone. I'm not going to lie. I'm one of those guys where I like to be zoned in and focus and study the game because I know that when it's time to podcast, I got to bring the heat for you guys and really decipher what's going on. So, no parties for me, just having a good time by myself. So, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. I'll talk to you guys maybe tonight, if not for sure tomorrow. Go Bucks.